My name's Judith Wilson and I'm a freelance writer and stylist, specialising in interiors and design. I've been doing it for over 20 years and I've come to KLC to lecture today, and I regularly lecture once a term on styling, and it's usually quite a fun, relaxed lecture, an hour or an hour and a half, and I look at three main things. I talk about working as a stylist on a magazine and as a freelance stylist, and I then look at some examples of, I try not to say good and bad styling, I like to say successful and not so successful styling, and we look at some images and the students talk about whether or not they think the images work or not and why. And then we talk a little bit about whether you are a natural stylist or whether it's a skill that can be learned, and we talk about that. And then I try and take them through the logistics of putting together a shoot, about the propping and about choosing locations and about your relationship with the photographer and how that works, and the role of the stylist. At the end I touch on work experience and moving into magazines and working as a stylist. And the other really crucial thing, which I find I do increasingly, is talking about, as interior designers, they're all going to have projects that they perhaps might want to get into magazines. So I talk about the process of taking recce shots and trying to get their particular project into a magazine, and the sort of things that magazines are looking for, and the whole logistics of presenting your project, sending the right number of pictures, sending in a synopsis of the project and what you've done. And we sort of talk through that as well. And in terms of my background, because I've worked in interiors for over 20 years, I've worked as a freelance for 16 years, and prior to that I was a decorating editor on Homes and Gardens, and I'm also a contributing editor for House and Garden now. So I've got experience both in terms of styling and also writing about interiors and houses. So it's usually quite a lively session, and I encourage people to ask me questions as much as possible, so that they get as much information as possible, so that they're getting the answers that they need. And we might focus on details as well, like the scale of flowers that you might want to use when you're styling a shoot. I always go big, try and keep to one colour, and just little tricks like making sure that the room that you're styling is as evocative as possible, and that perhaps you have a window open or a door open or a fire going or a cushion that just looks as if it's been sat on. Just anything that gives the impression that the room has been lived in and loved, and that perhaps the owner has just gone out and is about to come back in again. We're always trying with styling, although it's a sort of a sense of visual tidying up, it's also about evoking a mood and an atmosphere, and that's what I try and instill in them as well.